honestly just want to get with my friends and talk about them, their stories, their lives, their challenges, and how they overcame them. I just want to get to know them on a deeper level, and of course we're gonna laugh. I mean, that's what we do. But I want them to feel that someone listened. And that's it. This is the Bar and Friends podcast, where it's my space, your story, 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 your story.
All right. This is another episode of the Bar and Friends podcast. I am your listening host, Christian Barr, and today on the Bar and Friends podcast, we have a brother that is a man of God, husband, father, worship leader. Dude got Vans. So swaggy, but no, he's also a music artist and probably one of the most humble men I know. Pastor Chris, welcome on the Bar and Friends podcast, man. How are you, bro?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the invite.
For sure, man. Definitely. First and foremost, man, first of all, I didn't even know that you were going to be preaching on Sunday, bro. You killed it. Amazing word. I want to know something, though. Like, how do you prepare? How do you prep your sermons when you get called to speak?
So that's a loaded question. So it depends on if I'm asked to fit within some parameters or not.
I hear you.
So if I'm asked to speak with a sermon series or within some parameters, then I ask what the goal is. Mm-hmm. Once I get that, then I kind of backwards engineer it. Mm-hmm. And so for this particular weekend, there was a series, Extraordinary, that we're in, and I was given the guy we were speaking about and stuff like that. And so one of my biggest things is that sometimes, well, I'll say it like this. When I grew up in church, oftentimes when I read the Bible or I heard sermons, it was about the person in the Bible, and that was it. There was no practical steps or any way to make it relate to me as a person. So when I read scripture and when I read stories now, or I get the opportunities to preach, my idea is what is contextually, what is being said, and how does this apply to me right now, and how can this apply to us as the group of listeners or who's ever in the room or whoever will watch in the future. And so I'm always asking why, what, when, how, where when I'm preparing. And so if a question pops in my head, I search it out, which ends up being a lot more work than just reading what the surface level is.
Right.
That's kind of how I approach it. And if it's just like a one-off where it's like, do whatever's on your heart, then I just pray, ask, the Lord, what he wants to say for that weekend. And it's the same, process after that.
That's dope. Now, when you, let's just talk about, if there is no boundaries. Mm-hmm. What inspires you to write a sermon? Is it spending time with your kids, your wife? Where do you draw it? Okay.
It comes from everywhere.
Okay.
I'll be in a movie and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Or, I'll be with my kids and I think about a concept. And so it really is, inspiration comes from everywhere. But my idea, though, when I get the opportunity to speak is always, how is this going to be applied? I don't ever want anybody to leave a Sunday or an opportunity that I have an opportunity to speak or something like that and always feel like, well, that wasn't for me.
Right.
I could have stayed home. That wasn't, there's no one in my life that this applies to and stuff like that. I always want it to be a fresh right now word for everyone. And again, there won't be, every point of the sermon, and every sermon isn't for everyone, but I do think the Spirit of the Lord is always speaking. And I think there's always something to be drawn from what he's saying. And so that's always my goal. Now, do I hit it all the time? Probably not.
Yeah.
But that's the goal.
That's the goal, for sure, definitely. You have a single out
I do.
Show me, man.
Show me.
I want to know all of like the behind the scenes thoughts and the ideas that you had on creating this dope and incredible single.
Yeah, absolutely. So, about over a year ago, I was in a very dark place. Very, very dark. But being in ministry, you don't really get the opportunity to slow down as much as some people get the opportunity.
No, sir.
Now, this is the other part. There are people who don't get that opportunity, like single moms, and,
Right.
people who run businesses and stuff like that. So part of this is what I'm about to say. Some people will get, but I was in a season where it was prolonged, and I was just I was at the end. And I was ready to give up. I was in ministry still, but I was just ready to give up on everything. And I won't say that I felt like God left me, but I couldn't see where He was operating and moving in my life at that current time. And the song really came from a place of a desperate prayer. If you listen to the song, like I don't actually mention God's name at all. Don't say Jesus or anything like that. Because to be quite honest, I was angry. I was mad. I didn't want to talk to him.
I hear that.
And so it was more so me it was a desperate cry in a desperate season. And the intention was honestly never even to release it. I've written many songs.
Right, yeah.
Ton of songs. I mean, there's a bit, I have a ton of them. And the idea wasn't necessarily to release it, but it got polished, and I actually got connected with this guy, with this producer, and this master engineer who was like, hey, like, we see where you are right now. We see the season you're in, and we want to pour into the season you're in as well. And so they actually did the majority of the work free.
Yo.
And so, I did my part. I did my due diligence and stuff like that. But they said, we want to pour into the season, and we think that this song should just go further than your voice memos. And so that's kind of like why we, released it and everything like that. And it's been pretty cool to kind of see people who are in that same season now or have gone through seasons like that. And it's like, man, I can relate. And I've been in seasons where, other people saying I've been in seasons where I needed God to show me who He is and to reveal Himself when I feel like He's lost or I feel like I'm lost or He's gone or whatever the case may be. And so it's been pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're going to get more singles and EPs.
We
or
are.
Single, I'm sorry.
We are. So this song, Show Me, is actually a group of three. No one knows this.
Okay.
You're the first
Oh,
person.
oh, shoot.
You're the first person to know this.
Okay.
It's a 3-song story.
Okay.
The next song is called Rest. And the idea behind that song is it's like the continuation of the story. And it's just like, I'm exhausted and I'm tired of running. And I've gone to sleep and waking up and I still feel tired. And I need something more than a good night's sleep is what part of the song says.
Right.
And the idea and the concept is that we need the Holy Spirit to wash over us and we need the refreshing that only comes from Him. And so that's that second song. And then the song after that is called Nowhere. And it's this revelation of saying, you know what? I may be at the pit. Or kind of like how the story we was talking about yesterday in the sermon. I might be at my lowest, but I also realize and have the revelation of Psalms 139 that there's no place that I can go that He won't be. And so the song will, these 3 songs will be a progression in the conversation and starting from the place of, I am sick of this and I'm ready to give up. And then traveling to the place of, you know what, even if you don't rescue me from this place, I know you're here with me and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
Now, I want you to go as shallow or deep with me with this question if you want to. But it's like, what were some of the things that you were battling?
So I have a consistent, not consistent, but I've struggled with anxiety and depression for a very long time.
Okay.
And that compounded onto full-time ministry and family and all that kind of stuff. It sometimes I get in a pit that I just can't get out of. And honestly, I get triggered by a lot of different things. I go to counseling, I got therapy and all that kind of stuff. Some people in ministry, they say, you should just pray about it. And I've prayed all my life. I've done a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of altars, gotten anointed a lot of times. And I need more help.
More help, hey.
And so, Yeah, I was in one of those seasons where I just got into this dark place. And again, I don't know. I can't say there was any one thing that really triggered it. But when I got there, it spiraled, and I could not find myself out. I couldn't. And so it took a lot of medical advisement, but also it took a lot of prayer and time and rest and pulling away.
Yeah.
In ministry, sometimes it can feel like, and I don't know if this comes across in any other profession, but specifically in ministry, when you take a break, it feels like you're letting God down and everyone else down, because
Right.
what I do is tied to who I am.
Right.
And you add that on top of, am I letting my family down? Am I letting those around me who look up to me? And I just couldn't do it. The pressure and the weight of the world, I needed a break. And so I pulled back, and when I realized I needed to pull back, and I pulled back, it was Show Me, the first song, was maybe day 2, and I was like, God,
Yeah.
I don't know where you are. And again, the God honest truth, right hand to the Lord, I was gonna give up. I was done. I was done. I couldn't. I didn't know. I didn't see a step forward. And again, it took a lot of prayer. A lot of people surrounded me, and protected me, and showed me grace, and allowed me the space to make my way back to a place where, and it was beyond a place to lead. It was to get to a place where me and God were one again, where we could commune, and I felt refreshed, and it didn't feel like a task, but more so being brought back to my first love, and I being His, and so
Wow.
yeah.
And just to be completely real with you, it's like when you were going through that season, you showed up faithfully. You, even times when you probably didn't want to, but it's like, I guess that's when the prayers and the support from other
Absolutely.
people came into play. Because I'm just like, wow, you were at your last thread.
Oh, I was done.
You were through. You were through.
I was done.
Wow, man.
And this is the thing. I have, me and the Lord, we've had multiple conversations, and I've told Him if he gives me any other ability, then I would do it tomorrow. I would be the best greeter at Walmart. You have no idea.
Wow.
But He's gifted me, and He's given me the grace and the space and the calling and the anointing to do full-time ministry, whatever that looks like. I have nothing else. This is what I'm called to.
So it wasn't like you wanted this. He said no.
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Oh no, I was supposed to be rich and somewhere doing something. No. No, this
Whoa.
is no. No. And to be quite honest, I've tried. I've been in the military,
Right.
And that wasn't, being in the military and stuff like that. That career is great for some people. It wasn't where He was calling me to. And I've been in. I've had one other real job outside of grocery stores and stuff like that. One other real job at this company where I worked for Bank of America indirectly. I excelled at it. I did very well. But I had no peace. It wasn't where He was calling me to. And as heavy of a weight as ministry can be sometimes, this is where I'm called to. And so I've given the best years, and the rest of my years will be to Him and to the service of His kingdom, whatever that might look like.
Wow. So even though there might be challenges that come your way, at least you're at peace.
I'm at peace. Yeah.
My God, today.
Yeah. And so, and again, everybody goes through challenges and stuff like that.
course.
And I don't want to diminish that from anyone else. But sometimes I envy people who can leave work at work.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I pull out and I'm done. You
gotta go
call me
home.
once I go home.
Yeah.
That's not how ministry works. Man. And so but again, it's an honor at the same time. It's a joy, and it's so cool to see my kids, like, whether it be at a rehearsal or like when I practice sermons and stuff like that, I bring them in the nighttime.
Right.
Because I don't want them to ever think like, oh, Dad is just leaving and just like disappearing or whatever. Well, when I rehearse and I practice, I bring them here and let them run around or hear me speak and stuff like that. So they're my first audience. And
Wow.
so it's cool to see like the fruit of that in their lives where they're able to like, my youngest is 4, my middle is 6, and my oldest is 17. And any one of them, I'll say, hey, pray for us or do X, Y, Z for this person, and they'll do it. And I see the Lord cultivating a love and a joy towards Himself within their lives as well. And so that's I guess that's the biggest win, with all of this. And so if pressing through the hard times means that they have a stronger relationship with the Lord than they would have if I wasn't,
Hey.
then I'm okay with
You
that.
okay? No, I hear that for sure. Staying on the mental health and kind of like the depression segment for a minute, how would you describe depression? Like, is it like a black hole where you just really can't see a way out of?
Yeah, for a lot of people, it presents itself differently. For
Right.
me, again, it's like the hardest thing because I tend to draw away and pull away. I become very introspective, very negative towards myself first, and then I become a negative to other people. But it's for me, I feel like I'm trying to solve all of the world's problem at one time, and it's all on my shoulders. Like I am solely responsible, and that's not what I'm saying. Is not necessarily that's what I'm doing, but that's the weight that it feels like on me. And so nothing seems to work out. It seems like I'm when I get in those places that I again it's there. For me, it feels as if there's no way out. And honestly, and this is the hardest part, and it's better. I don't say better, but I'm more aware of that now because I'm married.
Right.
And my wife is able to say, "Hey, what's going on? Like, you feel a little different. You feel a little distant. Is everything okay?" And I don't know how to verbalize how I'm feeling when I get in those moments, and it spirals quickly. And then I'm there, and it's like, you get. For me, I get stuck for a month or so, or 2, and it's like, hey, brother, you gotta come on back.
Yeah.
And so, through therapy and doctors and having a support system around me now,
Yeah.
I'm able to identify quicker and use some of the tools that have been taught and stuff like that to help me out of it. And again, prayer and keeping in the Word definitely helps. But for some people, they need a little extra, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine for sure, definitely. Does your wife and your kids see a little bit of the aftermath when you go through your depression?
Oh, 100%. And so they would be the ones who would have to deal with the majority of it, I would say.
Right.
Because and I'm pretty good about not being phony. What you see is what you get.
Right.
Like I'm not a different person at home, but I will say that I am introverted by nature, and so
Okay.
when I'm outside of my household, my role is extroverted, and so I go. I probably pull back even more so, especially in those seasons and stuff like that. And so, they see it and stuff like that, and they've been very vigilant about saying, okay, so I love sun. I like it being warm. I like being
Yeah.
outside and things of that
Hear
nature.
that.
And so here in the Northeast in the winter, it is horrible. And so,
Yes.
when it's sunny and stuff like that, and we're able to go outside, the first thing is like, hey, you're like, Dad, let's go outside. Let's go for a walk. Let's do da-da-da and all that kind of stuff. And so that kind of stuff helps.
Right.
And stuff like that. And, being reminded of, the why in my life it helps out a lot. And so being able to have, goals and a purpose and stuff like that, like something I'm shooting towards helps projects for me are good. Like
Yeah.
I like we bought a fixer upper well fixer upper for us. For some people it was done, and so we know do projects around the house and stuff like that. And when I have a clear plan on what needs to be accomplished and the funds are in the right account, then stuff like that helps and stuff. And so
For sure. Okay, definitely. I kind of want to go back a little bit to your EP. I have like an album question for you.
Yeah.
This should be fun, right? So you got all the funds to do like your first actual album.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to give me the guest that you would love to have on that album.
the guest that I would
Yeah.
love to have. Wow.
Yeah.
The guest right now. Man,
Yeah.
that's a hard question. There was somebody who popped in my head immediately, and then I said no to this person. Honestly, because of the season they're in now.
Okay.
So I'm trying to really, what would I want this to be? Like, there's so many. Okay, so
man.
is it an artist or is it a group?
It can be both. I'll give you that. It could be both. Artist and it could be a group. But just give me like 5 features that you would like to have.
So I got a group. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so Joelle.
Okay.
Joelle Barnes. I
Okay.
would totally get. There's this girl that I didn't really meet her, but I just saw her in person for the first time. Her name is Courtney Carlson. So she is a prophetic worship leader, and she just tapped into the holies of holies, and I love it. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm all for that. I would say my wife, because we gotta like do something bilingual.
Oh.
Because Spanish,
Yeah.
praising the Lord is just different.
Yeah.
Like the Lord speaks in Spanish.
See. Yeah.
I really love Chandler Moore. He's from South Carolina like me.
Okay.
And so they got like some of that like down home flavor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then that last person, let's see. Let's see, we say 5, probably like a Tasha Cobbs or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Would it be like CCM with a mix of like gospel and
So it would be the reverse. It would be like gospel mixed with CCM.
my man? Okay, I was just saying it just to be safe.
Yeah. It would be the other way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Bet.
down home roots, bro. I love it.
That's what's up, man, for sure. Okay. So on this segment of the pod, I would like to call the Genesis. And I ask different people that come on, like, what's their Genesis? Like, what's their beginning? Now, they can start from, like, actual birth all the way up till now. Or they can just start, because I feel like, when you come out of something like anxiety or like depression, that can be a Genesis too.
For sure.
So yeah, I would love to get to know more about you, and yeah, just feel free to just share whatever you want in your Genesis.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because I feel like I've had a lot of Genesis throughout my life. But one I guess part of my story that kind of like popped into my brain just now that many people don't know about, and it kind of goes along with the songwriting and all that kind of stuff, is when I was probably about 8 years old, I was in church. Church choir. I don't know, in black church.
Yeah.
Everybody a part of choir, all the kids.
For sure.
You don't get a choice.
No.
So we were all in the choir rehearsal, and our choir director was like, "Hey, I want someone new to lead a song," and no one, raised a hand. And so we sat there for like 15 minutes, and she was like, "I'm not going to move until someone else suggests, steps up." So I just raised my hand just so we can move on. I'm 8 years old. I don't know how to sing. And so she said, "Okay, Chris, go and lead the next song." And so I'm like, again, I'm just thinking, it is what, like, nothing's going to come of this. Well, she gets me a song like 2 months later, and I was like, "Oh, so this is serious." And so we're practicing the song. It's a Kimberell song. I'm 8 years old, and this is the God honest truth to you. I cannot sing. This is the truth. Like, not a note. And so we it comes to like the week of, and I catch a cold. I can't sing, and I barely know the song, and it's Kimberell.
Right.
And so, and so that Sunday morning we got up and my mom was like, "Baby, this is how you know you bad." She said, "Baby, just do the best you can do."
Yeah,
It was bad. And so I said, okay. And so for whatever reason, the choir was already on the stage, and I was sitting down, like in the pews or whatever. And I was self-aware enough to know that I was bad. So I like put my head down, and I was like, okay, God, I was like, I just need you to do what only you can do.
Wow.
And I got on the stage, and magically I could sing. Good. And like the church was like the Holy Spirit like entered the room or whatever, and like church was like stop, everybody, like it was insane. It was crazy.
Wow.
But I feel like that was my genesis or my initiation into my calling, into my anointing. And I think because I said yes to God, even though I was aware at 8 years old that I couldn't do it, I believe me saying yes then opened or allowed God to use me. And the reason He's using me now, I think, because there's a lot of things that I can't do. I don't think I can preach really. I haven't had formal training. That's the God honest truth. I didn't go to school to preach.
Wow.
I only preach really like a handful of times in comparison to a lot of other people and stuff like that. And to be quite honest, I don't have. Now I do. Before coming here, I didn't have a real formula, and so. But I believe that my yes and my willingness to say, look, God, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but here's the opportunity. And so we're going to do this the best we can, and I need you to show up and do it. And so I say that to say, I think that was my genesis as far as into ministry, into my calling and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I think that has been the catalyst for where I am now. Not that I'm nowhere special, but yeah, I think that's my genesis.
Wow. That's what's up. 8 years old and got a cold and
It's terrible.
wasn't sure.
It's terrible.
Wow, man. That's crazy. Now, talk to us a little bit about, because I had to go ahead and ask you this question right here. I want to know the whole love story between you and the wifey. I want to know how that.
Boo?
Yeah, man.
So I was in school in Nashville.
Okay.
And I got asked to intern at a church in Florida.
Okay.
She was on staff at that church.
Okay.
And so, I saw her and stuff like that. And honestly, the first time I saw her, I really did feel like, time stood still. God honest truth.
Wow.
Like I did. I was like, dang, she's beautiful. All the things.
Right.
And like I'm a Southerner, and the way that Southern men flirt is like, hey, you gonna cook me dinner? Like, what's up? Where you gonna invite me over for?
Yeah.
So I'm like, trying to flirt, and she shuts me down. she's like, you ain't never coming over to my house, do you? I was like, dang. I mean, shut down. And so I left from that internship, went back to Nashville, and she was going transitionally through some stuff at the church she was at, and I was back at school, and so we just we kind of lost contact for a couple months, and then we just started texting and stuff like that. She was just asking some questions about different types of churches.
So
and things
y'all
like
exchanged numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we
okay.
were on staff with each other, so it
Oh,
was
okay,
kind of
got you.
it wasn't anything like that.
Okay.
Because honestly, in my head, she had shut me down, and it was like, it is what it is. It's done.
Right. Okay.
And
okay.
so, we started texting back and forth a little bit, and finally, she texted me one day and was like, "Well, if you want to talk to me, you need to call me." And I was like, "Huh, okay." And so, we had a little short phone call or whatever case may be, and during that same time, I kind of still was like, this ain't going nowhere because I live in Nashville, she lives in Florida. Well, at the same time, I got asked kinda to apply for this church. And long story short, I ended up going to an interview in Florida in a town next to her.
Okay.
But I didn't tell her because I was like, I don't want her to influence whether I end up at this church or not. Because if I tell her and she gets excited, then I'm gonna be excited because she look good and all kinds of stuff. So I was just I'm not gonna tell her at all. So I went to the interview, all that kind of stuff. Ended up getting a position, and when I moved down to Florida, I was like, hey, I got a job down here. I'm the next town over, and she was like, what? And so we just kind of started hanging out and stuff like that, and then we were we went to the beach. And we just, just hanging out or whatever. And at the time she had our oldest, who is her name's Pal. She was out, playing Build a Sandcastle, and me and Kayla were just like sitting, up a little further, and I saw. It was almost like I stepped outside of my body and looked at us, and I was like, if anybody else replaced me in this picture, I'm gonna be mad. And so I was like, this is my wife. This is my life. And so I said, and again, I was in ministry, and we already had a bunch of conversations, so she understood that I didn't want another girlfriend. I wanted a wife. And so my next girlfriend, which I told her, and we kind of agreed to this, my next girlfriend was going to be my wife, her next boyfriend was going to be her husband. So I looked at her and I was like, will you be my girlfriend? And she was like, yeah. And so I was like, oh, that's my girl, that's my wife. And so yeah. And so
Yo,
that's kind of how that whole thing happened. Yeah,
that's what's up, bro.
It was cool. My family loved her immediately. I went to meet her family. Her family is mad cool. It was honestly, the best scenario. Sometimes you hear
I was just gonna, go ahead, touch on it.
Bad scenarios where people hate their in-laws and stuff like that. That's not our story. I love her mom. I love her dad. I love her entire family, and my family loves her. It is and it's been so cool. Over the years, seeing how I've needed her and she's needed me. In different areas and progressions in life and stuff like that. It's I could not have asked for God to design someone better. She's everything that I could have ever asked or imagined, like above and beyond, quite honestly. And we've been married for 8 years in July, and it's crazy because I'm not the same person, nor is she the same person that we were 8 years ago. And we have become who we needed over time, seasonally as we change. We've adapted and grown into the person that we need now, and only God could do that. When I was stressed out and in my place last year, she turned into a totally different person that I've never seen before. I was a totally different person than she's ever seen, and there was so much grace for that. And I just know that God prepared her for me, and vice versa. I was prepared for her, and so. That's my ride or die.
Wow, man, that's incredible, yo. I do want to ask you this question because I tend to stay away from questions like this because I don't really be knowing some of the guests that I have on here. But me and you, we cool like that. Yeah. I have always gotten a bad rep for me that I would always date the vanilla chicks, you know what I'm saying? The color, you know what I mean? And so I just want to know, in your life or in your experience, have you discovered that type of hate? And how do you handle that?
So I'm from the South, so
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I've dated every color, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I hear that.
And so, within my family, I'll say it, my family, they were surprised. They weren't surprised that Kayla was the color she is.
Right.
They were surprised that she wasn't white. To be quite honest, she was like, "Oh, you." They thought I was gonna be a white woman. But yeah, for sure. Because I think people. Well, let's just say it like this. I can only speak from my own experience and from where I'm from in South Carolina.
Right.
Within my family, I will say this. My uncle married a white woman before I was born. And so within my family, some of that stigma and all that kind of stuff was already broken. I never even had to think about that at all.
Okay.
But within the South, my wife, Kayla, will even say, when we go back home to South Carolina, sometimes I get people, they look at us weird and stuff like that.
Right.
And I think it's just the small-mindedness or the ignorance of some people thinking that that I don't even know how to explain it. Right. This is the only way, and I do get it. This is the part of it. I do understand the idea of saying, you know what, our culture is being diminished and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
I totally get that, but I think that if you are I guess absolute in who you are, you're able to maintain your cultural identity and not have to bend and all that kind of stuff to other cultures because you feel like you have to fit in. This is the truth. I am who I am wherever I go.
Right. You black.
I'm
That's
black.
it.
I'm gonna be black.
Right, right.
You know, it is what it is. Like,
And you're not changing your wife. She's who she is.
she mad
and-
Spanish. She Puerto Rican, straight from the island, and she not changing. Nor
Yeah.
do I want her to.
Right.
And she doesn't require me to change either. And so I think as long as you're in a relationship like that, where it's like you don't have to become someone else to make this work, I think you're fine. I think that's the problem. I think some people have seen in relationships where it's like, oh, you had to become this person in order for this relationship to work, and I don't
Right.
agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like if you can't be yourself within the context of your relationship, then whatever that looks like to you, I'm not saying stay within your race or whatever it can be, but whatever that looks like for you, you do that. But I don't think that at your core you have to change who you are. Now you might have to make some adjustments, you know. But
Right.
But I am who I am. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm black, my mama black, my daddy black. We black, and I love it.
No, and I think, now my mom and my family, they were the same way as your family. Like, they're like, like, oh, okay. Because I've always, me too. Like, I've always dated, outside of my race too. I mean, I've dated black and Latinas and all that. But I think when I was in high school, their concern was where you're young and you don't really
You don't
have
know,
enough.
yeah.
Exactly. But, like, when I hit college, they're like, listen, as long as she loves the Lord,
Correct.
it's fine. It's cool.
Yeah.
So,
So my family was real vocal because it's not so common knowledge. I was actually engaged before, and
Oh.
and yeah, my family. This ain't it, brother.
wow, bro.
This ain't it. And I'm grateful.
Yeah.
Some people get offended and they're like, stay out of my business, all that kind of stuff. I was like, hey, you got eyes to see that I don't. And praise the Lord. Thank you for that. Thank you for telling me before I made
Wow.
a bad decision. I would rather that.
That is so awesome because some people in your situation, in your shoes, be like, "Oh no, you can't tell me how to live my life.
Tell
I'm
me.
gonna go ahead and do
Tell me.
what I want to do."
Nah. If you have an easier way to do it, tell me. I don't need the experience for myself. If you
Wow.
if you see something I don't see, tell me. I'm okay. I ain't gonna like it when you tell me now,
Yeah, right.
but I'm gonna go back and
And
evaluate
think about it. Yeah, for
and
sure.
be like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Wow, bro. No, I hear that. How is fatherhood for you?
I love it. It's so a lot of times I think about this almost every day of how healing it is for me to be a father in different areas, and it's like my mom and my dad did the best they could.
Right.
They worked very hard. They provided all they could with the resources that they have, and with the resources they have, they passed it down to me. And now with the resources that I have, I'm trying my best to be the best that I can for them, for my kids, and being able to sit back and be like, oh man, like we have the space and the capacity. So one thing that I really love is that my wife is a stay-home mom. I work full time. What that means and what that looks like is that like we don't do all the things that everybody get to do because we don't have a two-income household, but we get more time with our kids. And so
awesome.
I love coming home when my kids are home and they're not exhausted from the school day because they're homeschooled.
Right.
And we get to play and they get to tell me about things, and we get to it's just a dynamic that I didn't get growing up. My mom had to work. Within my household, it was a single parent household, and she had to work. She was tired. She was exhausted. She was overworked and underpaid. All the things.
Yeah.
And so she worked really hard to get me to where I am now, to a place where I can say, hey, I get to come home and my kids are home. My wife got to be with them. Now, that's a lot of work too, being a stay-home mom. It's a full-time job too. But I love being a father. I love being able to pass down some of the traditions and
Right.
some of the things that I was taught growing up. I love being able to look at them and tell them how much they're worth, and that they're loved, and that they're not alone, and that they can achieve anything they put their mind to. I love being able to identify their gifts and their talents, and just all of that. It's like the coolest thing ever. Like, I love fatherhood. It's like one of my favorite things in the world.
Wow. How did you embrace your oldest daughter? Because that's where me and you kind of relate because I have Caleb, and shout out to you, Caleb.
What's up, buddy?
He's not my son biologically, but I do feel like I do play a little bit of a role in his life. You know what
Absolutely,
I'm
you do.
saying? And
Yeah.
so I kind of want you to talk about the dynamic that you have with your oldest daughter, because I know that she lives with y'all, but
Yep.
she's not like biologically
Yeah.
yours, and so
So my mom married again. So
Okay.
I grew up with a stepdad.
okay,
That dynamic between me and my stepfather was not a healthy one. And we could just
Okay.
you can read into that however you want to.
got you.
It wasn't. And so when I was sitting on the beach that day with me, Kayla, and Powell, I knew when I asked Kayla to be my girlfriend, that I was also saying that I was going to be Powell's father, and I didn't want the same relationship that I had with my stepdad. And so from the very beginning, the relationship that we have is that I am your biological father. That's the way we treat it. That's the
Okay.
way that I approach it. Now, she knows that I'm not, and I will never try to replace her biological father because I can't.
Right.
I can't. But you have access to me, and you have everything as if I was here from day one. And so she is, and when I talk to everyone, she is my first child. Biologically, maybe not, but she's my first child. And so right before my second was born, Bella, my first biological, but my second child was born, we had a family conversation basically, and she kind of like voiced her concerns about what her role would be. And I was like, you're my child. Like, I'm your dad. Like, you have access to me. You have, when you talk about like inheritance and all that kind of stuff, you have full access to all inheritance. You are not off to the side. You're not thought of less than. You have everything. And so I don't want you to ever posture yourself like you're the other child or less than or not important or not valued or not loved, because that's how I felt growing up. And that's not what I wanted for her. And so we have a great relationship. That's my baby. That's my child. I've been in her life now longer than I haven't been in her life at this point.
Wow.
But yeah, she's mine. And so that's the way we approach it and stuff like that. And I'm just as protective. She's 17 now, so I'm just as protective as I
Right.
would be if it was Bella. It's getting a little weird now because she's getting older. She's trying
Yeah.
life, but she's still my little baby girl.
Wow, man. Yeah. No, and for me, and I can definitely do better in this area too, because it's like with Caleb, he's 12, and so just trying to understand him, and just trying to just tap in with him more, and calling and texting and stuff of that nature. Like it takes work,
Oh, 100%.
but just to let them know, like, hey, I'm here,
Absolutely.
and whenever you want to talk. Like you said,
got you.
yeah, full access, exactly. So, yeah, it's
I feel
good.
like boys would be a little easier.
Yeah,
Go play in the game system. What's up with you?
and that's what he does. So,
I catch you at 9:00. Yeah. No, it's
For sure, man.
I love it. Honestly, it's a joy, and honestly, it's a privilege. Like, again, it's like one of those healing moments where it's like, this was an area that was broken within me. The child within me never got the healing that he needed from the specific situation, and every encounter and every conversation, like with with my oldest, it's like, man, like this might not even be the best approach right now. So much better than what I had. Like, and that's my hope with my, we were talking about kids and all. That's
Right.
my hope with every interaction and stuff like that. I might not be the best dad. That's and that's just the reality check of it all. I'm doing the best I can, but the other part is that I know that I'm doing better than the generation before me, so that this next generation that comes up, you can be even better.
Yeah.
Like, I'm giving you better tools and a better place to start from, and that's what my parents did for me.
Right.
And so that's it, it's kind of like this little black colloquialism. It was like, you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my approach to fatherhood.
No, for sure. When it comes to fatherhood, like, who do you look up to as like A reference. Like, because you have 3 kids, and so, like, how, like, was there anyone that you kind of saw in the church that you were like, I kind of want to
Model that.
model that, yeah.
I would say I have some friends. Their name Steve and Melissa Brentro.
Okay.
They are, they have a blog and stuff like that. You can find
Okay.
on Life of the Family, something like that.
Okay.
I'm messing it up. Anyway, I met them actually when I was interning in Florida, and they were homeschool parents. He owned his own business, and so he could work from anywhere. She was a stay-at-home mom, but she can do a lot of stuff. She does a lot of stuff as well. But I really love the way that Steve was extremely present in his kids' life. They have 2 kids, Adrian and Addison, and I just have never in my life seen a dad that was so present. Now, he worked from home, and so that added its benefits, but they were in full-time ministry. They went through a season, I think it was like 7 years of revival at their church, and it was like nonstop church every night. God was showing up, doing amazing things, but they got burnt out. And so they ended up, he ended up doing his own business and stuff like that. And I just love the way that he loved on his kids and on his wife. And I was like, this is what I want for my family. This is before me and Kayla were even in a picture. And I was like, I want to be in. And one cool thing is that they would travel together. Like, we didn't travel growing up.
Yeah.
And so he would travel. They would take trips overseas and to different things. And because they were homeschooled, they would just say, you know what, we're going to, Chicago to go to a museum there.
Right.
And it was just like, who does this? I loved it. And so I was, I really looked up to the way that, he loved his kids and he loved his wife. And I was like, I don't know all the dynamics of it,
Right.
but they're really good friends of ours now, me and my wife. But I really love the way that he loved his kids. Carl Winslow, from the Family Matters.
Hey,
Yeah, dude.
that's the best father right there, man.
There we
No,
go.
man, for sure. No, and I want the same for my kids because, Pastor Chris, I grew up without a father myself. And so, I have a great relationship with my father now. We talk, almost, like twice a month, 3 times a month. But, we have that great, relationship where we can be able to call each other up and just have, just casual conversation. But like when I was growing up, my mom would always be at work.
For sure.
It was always a struggle, and so I think, like seeing all that, I definitely want to have just, I want to be able to do better for my kids.
Absolutely.
And I want to be able to, to go on trips and to be able to give them a lifestyle that I didn't live.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I just want to just provide for them and, give them a better life.
Yeah.
So,
My kids get sick of me. All throughout the days, I love you. You're the most beautiful thing in the world. You're the most handsomest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Daddy loves you. Da da da. Just all that stuff. And they be like, Dad, you tell me that all the time. And I'm gonna do it until I die.
Until I die, yeah.
Yeah. And so, because I feel like at least for me, I grew up in my identity for some sections and parts of my life was so dependent on what other people thought about me outside of my home, who didn't know me, who didn't know what was inside of me, what God had called me to and things like that. And I allowed their labels and what they thought I should be and what they called me to become my identity for so long. And I lived beneath who God had called me to and beneath what my family and those who loved me thought of me, simply because they didn't verbalize it. And so I want my kids to know you are smart, you're intelligent, you can achieve anything you put your mind to. You're so loved, you're accepted, you're wanted, you're valuable. Like all the things that like the world would, try to throw at, the opposite at you just to just to put you down, because it can. And so, I love that you and your dad has a great relationship now.
Yeah.
And again, I know that's healing as well.
Yeah.
That's can be repair some of the different places within you. And me and my dad have gone through something. This is the truth. I knew my dad growing up. Like,
Okay.
we had a relationship and things of that nature, but he wasn't in the household. And within my household growing up, there was some tension between me and my stepdad, and so it put a strain on me and my biological dad as well. And so it was just complicated. Childhood was complicated. And growing up now, being an adult, you look back on it, you see the nuances, and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of see why this happened.
Right.
Kind of see why this was the approach and things like that. But as a kid, you can't, rationalize anything that's happening. You can only try to understand with the limited, experiences that you've had.
And right.
And it is what it is.
Are you close with your stepdad now? Have you guys talked?
Mm-mm.
And okay, got it.
No.
Okay, cool. Next question. Last question for you, Pastor. I'm gonna let you go. What do you want to be remembered for, and why?
A great father, a great husband, and a great
Dang,
father.
that was quick.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. A great husband and a great father. I would love that. That would be the joy of my life. If at when I'm drawing my last breath, if my wife and my kids are surrounding me, and they're there. A lot of people die alone.
Yeah.
And no one's around. Their loved ones aren't around. I don't need. Some people have the desire for the for fame and the people and all that kind of stuff. I just want my wife and kids to say that that I love them and that they got the opportunity to love me. That's what I want. That would be, for me, that's legacy.
I hear that. Are you and the wife, you planning on having any more kids?
We done. He's over. This ship has sailed. Reason enough.
I hear that, man. Well, Pastor, thank you once again, man.
Thank you for the opportunity.
For sure, man. Listen, you guys are tuned to the Bar and Friends podcast with my boy, my brother, Pastor Chris, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Peace. Good, dude.
Whew. Yeah, man, that was good. Yeah, no, for sure.